Okay. So let me introduce Vani to everyone once again. So Vani is an author, columnist, and journalist. She is also an energy healer, a psychic, an NLP coach, an Akashic Records reader, and a certified hypnosis and past life regression therapist with a thriving practice that attracts clients from around the globe. Her best-selling books includes Seconds Later and her non-fiction book, sorry, Flowers and Forever, which was published in the US by Worldwide Art Books, and her latest romance novel, which we are going to discuss today, is Mrs. Joshi's Bride, which is a blend of romance and some thrilling elements. So, Vani, welcome you here, and we are very excited to discuss your book with you.
Thank you so much. I am equally excited, trust me.
Okay, so let's dive into the questions straightforward because I am sure that everyone has a lot to ask you here. So my first
Mhm.
question to you would be, how did the idea of the book actually came?
Okay. Uh, the idea was there was a lot of fodder for my imagination in my surroundings. So I do remember, at the time when I started thinking about this book, my brother was to get married. So in a very little way, he has a lot that he has contributed to the book because the bride hunt kind of went on for many years for my brother. And these were all household dialogues, that I used to hear. We used to have a diary that my mom used to maintain, and half the girls rejected him, and then the people he liked, so it never used to kind of work out. And I could see that this was not just his story, and it was like so much like around me because a lot of my friends were going through similar kind of things, and I thought that was a wonderful story to capture. And probably my Punjabi roots kind of brought that in, that humor, that comedy, and the comic timing, and the drama, and the unnecessary over the top kind of emotion sometimes. Oh, if you don't call us, then we are not even, if you don't take our suggestion, then we are not even going to come for the wedding, and might as well not just even send us the invitation and all. So it's like for Punjabi especially, everything is nothing is like kind of average. It's kind of always slightly over the top. So I think there was a lot going on, and I thought this was something that I could probably, and that I felt probably people would be able to relate to no matter. And then once I just had to kind of move outside of my house, and I saw that this was not just happening in India. It was a story that was kind of playing out in many cultures, many countries, and that's probably the reason why uh, people beyond nationalities have been able to relate to this story. So I think this happens in a lot of cultures, but it was just my way of capturing a Punjabi story. So
Being a Punjabi, I can relate to the Punjabi part as well and the diary part as well, to have a record of everybody who you have actually, scanned the profiles and everything. I can relate to that. So, moving on, since you said that you took inspiration for a lot of things from the things happening around you as well. So, the character of Jennifer. Okay, so when she crashes at his home in front of his family and is kind of trying to include herself in every single situation, do you feel if this situation would have reversed and instead of Jennifer, it had been the male character? I mean, if you switch the places, the males with the female, I mean, do you think this would have been kind of very crazy kind of and to some extent scary instead of being humorous?
I think you've given me an idea for my third novel, Yes, what I can do is I can just switch these characters, and I can, instead of Jennifer, it's the guy going to the girl's place. And it's almost like, you've seen that movie, Jab We Met. It's what this
Yeah.
guy, he reaches her family, tries to, just befriend everybody, and tries to just, even when, there are people coming to meet her, and I think there's some engagement
Yes.
going on. He just tries to create a scene or something, but of course they have nothing going on between them. Over here
Yeah.
there are layers that you can see. There is some kind of stuff that is going on. There is like there's something like on the lines of love and soft corner, which is definitely there. And then there is the whole thing that we have our family, they don't get it. They just don't get it. They are in their own, sphere of existence altogether. And in fact, the most hilarious parts to write were when his family start to try, they want to look for a nice groom for her, and they're trying to,
Yeah.
probably set her up with a guy called somebody in the family. And then he's like, that guy, are you serious about it? She lives in Canada, she might as well find somebody in Canada. You don't have to. And when I was writing it, I felt like this happens. This is the real stuff. A guy walks into your house, and the first thing your mom is, oh, let's get him married to some older cousins, sisters, daughters, grandmothers, something. And already in our families, we are all like matchmakers, and we are already always doing that. So yeah, that was hilarious to write. But yeah, I mean, you've given me an idea. Like, if I was to reverse this thing, the dynamic, and kind of bring in a male in a female's family, that can work. Yes. Yes. Asta, I'll give you credit for my next novel.
Okay. No, but actually, to think about if the roles were reversed, this situation, if it was to happen in real, kind of turn into something creepy as well. This was my first thought when the situation actually happened. So just imagine that you are with your family and someone has just dropped by, the person that you least expect to be with when you're spending the time with your family. So this thought actually immediately came, and I wanted to ask this to you. If the situations were reversed, what would have been your take on it?
I think it would have just changed the whole thing in a very different way. Of course, it would have been creepy, and this is like as creepy as it can get. People, coming suddenly coming to your house and wanting to stay. But I think that's also something about in. I think that took so there are two three things in this. I think that took the whole tension of the event several notches up. So that's where the excitement builds. Oh my God, she reached his house? What? No, this is not possible. And then, you have to, as a writer, I think it was very interesting to write that, because even though that was creepy, that could have been reversed or whatever way you look at it, let's look at it that way. Whatever way you look at it, I think that just takes your whole tension several notches up. And that's where the plotting works, because when you're creating that plot, you have such tense moments which like really create a lot of tension, and then you release, and then you just build it up again, and then you release. That's what keeps a novel going. I think this was an important part. But yeah, you're right, it would have been creepy. So, to not make it creepy, it could have been creepy even from Jennifer's side. Trust me, if she would have invited him to her room and tried to do something, because obviously the family has
Yeah.
left and there are the two of them. I think as a writer, I had to constantly question myself, what is it that I'm truly trying to say? Am I trying to, if I want to make it creepy, I could have written a sex scene over there. Maybe they kissed or something, or maybe she forced a kiss. What is it then that tells the reader? Is it telling the reader something about her character? Because they are in those kind of settings many times where they're alone, they're in a room. What are they doing then? How are they conducting themselves? Are they throwing themselves on top of each other? Because that is going to be a big put off for the reader. The reader is going to be like, oh, they're just concerned about, they're all about just passion, passion, passion. So I think these events are also a way for you as a writer to assess, like, okay, what is it about the character that I can probably tell the reader? So it's almost about, can I show something here? Can I show discernment, not to throw him on the bed or not to throw her on the bed and just get into something, and just kind of hold yourself, guys. You have control. Don't make it creepy from either side, and kind of show something about your character rather than me telling the reader, oh, he's very conservative. Oh, he does not like to engage in casual sex. Okay, she's there in your house. You just
Yeah.
go and start. your stuff, whatever you want to do, or you just exercise restraint. So I think it's not just about this incident that you are highlighting. What I'm trying to say is that every incident in a book, no matter who the protagonist is, whether it's a girl going to a boy's house, boy going to a girl's house, is something for you to take the challenge on and kind of seeing where it takes the story, what it reveals about the two characters, what's the tension that you can create, what's the dialogue that's going on, and how you can bring meat to the whole story and kind of keep the plot going at the same time. Because you can see that in that scene, there's a lot of tension as well. He's constantly on those tenterhooks, like he doesn't know what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. And I think if I were to reverse the scene, it's going to have been probably worse. In Indian families, you're a girl,
Yes.
you have a boy walking in, अरे मुश्किल हो जाएगा ना, right?
Yeah, of course. Okay. So,
That is your short question.
no, that is fine because you have actually set a base for the next question that is coming up. So what made you go through all the hoops, you made you go through all these hoops with the protagonist to actually reach the climax? So what was the thought behind that?
Okay, tell me more about this. What hoops are you talking about?
All the chaotic energy that was there, his family trying things, making him introduce to different girls, all those things. If I give you an example, it's like I will not reveal the end, obviously. So whatever the protagonist, that is Mr. Joshi, he goes through. So there is a girl he meets in the very starting, who's good, but he's just saying that I cannot actually agree to her because I cannot pronounce her name. So like these kind of there are different scenarios that is he's going through. So to reach that climax, what was the idea that I want him to go through these kind of situations?
So for me, it was all about, is my character, I constantly asked myself as I gave him challenges, I constantly asked myself, am I giving him enough to reveal his character? That's number one. And number second is he getting challenged enough to grow, evolve, and develop? I should not come to that last scene. Now, without giving out the ending of the story, I don't want to come to that last scene and surprise the reader that, what, everything is resolved, and here is my protagonist who did not even, bother or care about the lead woman in his life, at the beginning of the story, and something happens and God knows whatever. I didn't want to, and I know that requires very careful thinking and plotting and the whole kind of taking the reader through with me through this roller coaster journey of whatever he goes through, the ups and downs, the rejections and the failures, everything, every challenge that he's faced has taught him something. And even though you might find that in the like the start of the story, he's not an assertive kind of a character. By the end of it, you can see that there is so he's not perfect. Even at the end, he's pretty flawed. Right from the start, you can see that he's not able to answer a guy who is actually, you can see that the guy is trying to be mean and rude to him in that television video interview and whatever. And so you can see that you can see that the guy is like not assertive at all. The way he's grown up, he's very respectful, he's very restrained about what he wants to say, what he wants to show. And it's in first person, so you can see that there is always dialogue going on in his mind. But you can see that he has opened up, he has evolved and grown in his journey somewhat. Every challenge that he's faced, he's learned something to eventually come to that decision which he makes in the end. So for me, I think it was not so much about holding out. I think for me as a writer, what I wanted was that I don't want to surprise the reader at the end by his decision. I think the reader should be able to conclude even before I do that, that whatever decision he's gonna take, they should know that, whoever, like, iska bride kaun hoga. so so it was that. And it was very exciting. I mean, come to think of it, Asa, I think this is our life story at the end of the day. We've all been through bankruptcies and relationship problems and heartbreaks. And, I'm a healer.
Yeah.
That's my main hustle. I'm an energy healer. I work with people all over the world, and we all have the same stories. We all have this. This is a part of human experience. We all go through heartbreaks and rejections and joblessness and fights and toxicity and alcohol abuse and
Yes.
God knows what all to come out on the other side to evolve and grow. So I think it's just that's why probably I think the themes are the same, so that's why people have been able to connect to the whole story. And I'm glad I didn't give up like in the middle, like after his one success. Oh, abhi kar dete hain resolution. So you have to know as a writer when you are giving a resolution to a story as well. Every story has got a start, a middle, and an end. You have to know when the ending, when you have to end the story, and nothing even before that. Nah, no, you have to know when you will give the resolution.
Okay. So, let me just ask the members who are joining, guys, if you have any questions, either you can put it in the chat, or if you want to ask, just unmute your mic and ask. Because till now, if you have questions, feel free to shoot them, or I'll continue with mine.
Vani, I have a question. So your Mr. Joshi is flawed. He's what you would call not the perfect man. And in today's time, we all are searching for our man to be perfect, especially the Gen Z. So your book kind of shows us that not everybody is perfect, and Mr. Joshi specifically. So how would you like your inspiration for Mr. Joshi? Like, were they your friends, or where do you find this? Because we the younger generation, especially the age of 19 to 25, I feel needs to understand that we can't. There's no perfect, and you have clearly shown that through Mr. Joshi's Bride that nobody's perfect. Everybody has flaws. So, I want to understand from where your idea of Mr. Joshi came originally. So I want to know like your inspirations for his character. Yeah.
I think the inspiration was, like I said, all around me. There were things that I was hearing, but as a writer, it was different. It was like I wanted to. Number one, I'm a woman. Writing a male character was, as it is, difficult because it was almost. And this book is in first person, so you can imagine the challenge I was actually taking on, because writing a male character, and that too in first person, where I'm showing you exactly what is going in his mind. And you've not read my other book, it's called Seconds Later. In that one, again, it's like four characters, all written in first person. Out of them, three are male and one is a woman. So, as a woman, of course, the conflicts that go on in our head. But for a man, it's absolutely different. And this guy is deeply flawed. But what I wanted to show was that despite his flaws, he is a very, he has some good things going for him. And I wanted to kind of make it as real and as authentic as possible. I had a rough idea as to how this guy is. Yes, he is respectful with women, even when he's, engaged or something. To what limit he will, indulge his fiance and, things like that. But I think it was more important to keep him with that blinkers on and give a sense to the reader that this is his limit that he has set for himself. And no matter what, no matter he's left alone in a room with a lady he loves, he absolutely desires, he will still not breach his limits. He will not still go beyond his limits. I think it was hard for me to create a character, especially as Gen Z watches a lot of American drama these days, which are, American and British, they are all alike in that way, because in that, you just find a boy and you kiss him in the bathroom stall or whatever, wherever you can get space. So for me, this was in fact, this was a big walk away from what you see on TV series and Netflix and all, because I wanted to show a guy who does not smoke, who's not a party animal, who does not drink. He is very respectful towards women. So this was actually, writing him was a challenge. And you can say in a way that Mr. Darcy was my inspiration from Pride and Prejudice, but I'm saying that just because you asked me that question, and I think Mr. Darcy kind of comes across as a very, बस इसके पास पैसा नहीं है. Mr. Joshi does not have the kind of money that Mr. Darcy had, but yeah, could be because he was also like not very accessible to women. He's also very secretive about his love and his emotions and all that, but he's very loving and very gentle and very caring at the same time. So yeah, yeah. So I think I would say Darcy.
So do you feel that Mr. Joshi's character is something for the Gen Z to learn from, that because women want the bare minimum, yet they are finding that isme, like, kind of, I was having a talk with somebody about relationships, that it's become so easy to kind of break off things if you have a relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's a friendship, anything. You just it's just very fast. So do you think that Mr. Joshi can be that person, that character, who becomes a kind of a reflection of how, if you want to go ahead in a relationship, you need to work, not work, I mean, you need to see that all aspects of your character, of your moral compass are covered and in sync, and because we also need to, like, analyze the character before coming to a conclusion that this is toxic, or this is, so, do you think that this is something, this character will be something that the Gen Z especially can take forward, pointers from, that there are people who are flawed, but they are not, that bad that you kind of cut them off, So what do you think?
I think there are many takeaways from Mr. Joshi's character. I think Gen Z might find it a bit hard to relate to. I'll not lie about this. I think this is more for people who've been through a couple of relationships and who've seen heartbreaks, and they'll be able to understand that he's a flawed character, because by 25, 30, 35, you realize that okay, everybody's like flaws. Everybody has flaws, and nobody comes here perfect in a perfect case, whatever. Just sorry for that. So nobody is perfect, and we all have flaws, and I think it's for people above 25 who will actually have a lot of takeaways from Mr. Joshi's character. They'll be able to not only relate to him, but also understand what place he's coming from, what are his ethics, what are his values. I mean, come to think of it, we also have Indian movies. Like forever, our Indian movies have not shown sex scenes and not shown kissing scenes, and only two flowers, whatever way, they're just shown touching each other whenever we go. So we've grown up accepting that. So we kind of don't find this distasteful or beyond our imagination to accept, because we are like, okay, we've always grown on those kind of movies. Even our TV series, the Saas Bahu series, and whatever we watch on Indian television, we never have that kind of explicit content, being shown openly the way it is in American and British shows. So I think on a certain level, we will be able to accept that, but appreciation will be more in 25 plus kind of age group, who will be able to relate to his struggles and the challenges he goes through, and also evolve. He's also evolving and growing in his journey. Something that younger generation, they don't understand too much about. Like 19 to 25, you're like, no, 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 no. I run the world. I know how to change him or her. I don't adjust to people. people adjust to me, and then slowly you have a few heartbreaks, you kind of go through those, traumas and toxicity and all that, and you realize, no, it doesn't work that way. You have to compromise, you have to respect, you have to, there are many things involved in relationships, and also I think they might find him kind of acceptable, adorable. They might find some points to relate to, but true appreciation, I see that more in like 25 plus age group for his character. You're on mute.
So Manali said that that it's changing thanks to OTT. That where people are, the Saas Bahu serials that you were talking about. Yes.
Yes. I think the toughest thing for me was to, for him to not use swear words. It's almost like so hard to find novels these days that are not using swear words. And for me to kind of write a character who's still subdued, who's still, very kind of, he comes from a different ethic, like he has that pettiness to himself, but he's also a bit muted as a character. He allows people to walk over him. Sometimes you just want to slap him tightly and you want to be like, can't you see what they're saying? And then you're like, oh my God, I know I have been in that place some point of time of my life. We've all been there. So I think relatability to an extent is there to the character. But for me, what was important was to show that he's evolving and growing through his flaws, and it's pretty rapid for him. Like he grows, the whole span of the novel is probably 2.5 years. I think that's what it is. Most people take God knows how many relationships and God knows what all there happens in their lives to evolve to this stage.
Since we are talking about characters, so there is another character in the story that is Jennifer. So do you feel that she deserved a more detailed role in the story? Sure, you can have what, or we can continue
No,
after that.
no, that's okay. So with Jennifer, yes, I do have a feeling that I could have written more about her, but it was not about her that I wrote the novel. She, in this whole thing, she will still be a side character. I was sure that this had to have multiple women because this is about him, the protagonist, looking and choosing a perfect bride. And until I could show different shades of women he meets, and
Yes.
everybody has some part to play in his growth and evolution. Jennifer, of course, it's a very strong character, but if I would have given her the entire screen space, then I would have struggled to give enough part to the other ladies who were um, in the book as well. And everybody is special to me. Parvati auntie is special, and every one of those characters that I have written, they are all so special for me because I had to carve them out. Like, they are well etched. They come with dialogues, whether it is Mrs. Gulati, just trying to suggest a marriage with her daughter, and everybody, and with her
Yes.
chin whiskers and all that. So everybody has a part to play. So for me, it was like juggling between these very, very interesting women and how much part screen time each one of them gets, and how the reader is is also traveling with me in this journey and not trying to be like, oh, we want to see more of that character, we want to see. No, you go along because I'm the writer, so you go along with me, you see what I want to show you. And I know
Of
they
course.
want to show more of, they would want to see more of a character, but then it's it's like, I didn't want any kind of extra screen space for anybody. Everybody just gets appropriate amount of screen time.
Sure. So we have another question which Anjali is asking. What has been the most surprising or memorable feedback you have received from readers about Mr. Joshi's Bride?
Wonderful. What has been the most magical one is that I'll tell you of a story, and though many people will not believe in it, I'll tell you two stories, in fact. So you're asking about feedback, right? So
Yes.
I had, there was a point in time in my life when I had, basically, I thought I won't be writing another book and this is not for me. And, it's almost like, I said, because this journey is very long, like it's not easy to write books and to get them published and all that. And that point of time, I just suddenly remembered this feedback about, I don't know. Okay, somebody read the book, somebody read this book, and they wrote a letter to me from the US. I didn't know who this person was. I have their letter with me, and they said that, Vani, I happened to have got a copy of your book when I was in the hospital. That person had committed suicide. She is a Black American woman, and she said, Vani, I was laughing when I was reading your book, and I found so much resonance with your character, with your book, with the way you describe things. And I don't say I'm the best writer that's out there, but I am glad it helped somebody who is on a hospital bed, and maybe it made them laugh, maybe it made them, motivated enough to write a letter to me. And you won't believe it, but I have that letter with me. And that kind of changed things for me. And then for me, it's almost like these things may not even be important. The dialogues that I've written, the characters that I've created, the plot that I've built, the journey I've made, etc., etc. But what if I were to tell you that, it goes out somewhere and it's going to help somebody? Somebody is going to just laugh, have a laugh out loud moment, just reading what you've written. And it's probably going to be transformative for somebody, motivating for somebody. And I'm not saying that about this book, I'm just saying in general. So these kind of things, these kind of feedback, when I receive, they are really something that lift me up and they cheer me definitely. And then, there are people, of course, they tell me like, Vani, we've enjoyed reading the book and we had many laugh out loud moments. And I hear that from everywhere. I work with many people. They bought the book in many countries and they tell me the same thing. They don't even speak my language. They're using translator to actually translate the book and read it. And it's just amazing to hear their feedback.
Of course. So we have more questions coming in the chat. So Shifali is asking, what inspired you to write about a family making their only male member to go abroad and later marry an Indian girl of their choice?
What made me do this? I wanted to
Yes.
kind of have a story which a 21st century person could relate to. And so there are many things that she's asked in this one question. One, uh, she has asked about I think, a male member being sent abroad. I think this is a very typically Punjabi scenario, if you understand, because everybody in Punjab, what happens is that at least one member from the family is abroad. Either it's the son or the daughter, and today, you have just one child kind of a thing. So one person, children are mostly, they complete 10th grade and they're sent abroad for further studies, which is why this is not unusual for me to even think about or write about. This is so normal for us. And secondly, for him to have married an Indian woman, well, I have seen that there's a struggle even when you go abroad and you try to, create your roots in a foreign country and all that. Still, somewhere, I think the love for the country so much, the culture and the ethics and the values and the family, the traditions, they stay with you, and they are so much a part of you. You want to eat Indian food, you want to enjoy Indian festivals, you want to bond with Indian people. And certainly, when it comes to choosing a partner, I think every one of us, I mean, Manali could probably give us more details on that, but it's almost like, we do look for an Indian partner because there's so much resonance then, with what we carry and what the other person is bringing to the table as well. I think so. That's why I didn't want to make it too unusual, too unpalatable for the reader, something that they had a hard time believing in. So I had to write it I had to put it in a mold where it's believable, relatable, and then it creates a sense of, oh, he's choosing an Indian. So if I may ask you, you've read the book and others have also read the book. Thanks for asking me that, Shefali. And would you have appreciated better if he would have married a white or another nationality or ethnicity instead? She says, Panali says, oh, we want to stick to our roots.
Actually, I'm basically from Punjab itself, so I know how people are moving to the other place.
Yes.
So I understand basically. So I was just wondering, you are also from Punjab and you have just basically taken the same route area.
Yes, yes, yes. I think I'm excited to hear that, because that kind of tells me that you could relate to the story. I think it's just how things
Actually,
are.
90% of here are moving to abroad and they are looking for NRI girls only, and only few are there who are looking for Indian girls because they think that only they can be compatible with them more easily than the other girls, because they are just moving from one person to other basically.
Yes, yes. Also, because somewhere along, there's just so much, like, you can't take India out of us. So, I have seen that people are settled there for 40, 50 years, and then also they are following Indian news, they're following Indian channels, they're still watching Indian series, and very much connected to Bollywood and all that's going on here. I think, and even if, let's say, even if that's not the thing, then somewhere along, your parents, your ancestry, your village, something of that connection is over here. So I think there's a natural tendency to go for a person who appreciates that. So I don't know, if I were to probably write about a bride that was not Indian, would you have appreciated that? I don't know, really.
Actually, it might be a different scenario then, because
Yeah.
you don't look for the same thing again, then the choice and the rejections would be a bit different.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Now, I would also like to question you one more thing. You picked up the family background of Ragini and everything, a Manglik dosh and other things also around, and then showing him the bride and everything. It was like we are moving into a family where boy is coming from outside and he's being shown one by one each girl, and he's being called up again and again. And there was humorous scenes. I think that it should be more relatable.
Hmm. And so your question is?
Actually, I wanted basically to ask what inspired you to give a family touch so closely to that.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, it's almost like a lot. So I think my point of writing that whole thing was, there were a lot of things that I wanted to address, and I always believe in showing, not telling. So just by saying that, that his sister has a Manglik dosh, there's something going on as far as astrology, her horoscope and chart is concerned. I think that kind of tells an Indian reader, okay, she cannot marry, for a while, because he does ask her, like, if you're so interested in matchmaking, why are you looking for a bride for me? Why don't you look for a groom for yourself? And they, of course, they don't have much of an age difference, and she's beautiful and he's beautiful. So I think I had to kind of show to me the time that he spends in the family when he's visiting them. I think that was when I wanted to show the family dynamic, why the women are so powerful, and the kind of, I think, cover they created bookmakers theme, I think it shows you very well that the family dynamic is such where everybody is wanting to know what this guy is up to, and who he will get married to. And isn't that very common in Indian families? The only thing is that in his case, the parents are not living, but there is a very active sister, there is a very active auntie, there are neighbors, and there is a grandmom, and everybody has wants to poke their nose in his personal affairs. So I think I just wanted to not miss out on that opportunity where I can show all this interplay of, you know different people in his marriage. His marriage, just leave the guy alone. No, they won't leave the guy alone. Everybody has to have a say. You should marry her, you should marry her. And, it was just so exciting for me to show that. And it's so relatable because that's what exactly happens in our families. Like what I said, and when Asta asked me the start of the interview, what was your inspiration? I saw how things panned out for my brother for years. Everybody was interested in his marriage. And once he was married, well, everything is mute. You are almost like in a black and white screen. Nobody's interested in you. And then he's living in his own space. But marriage per se is such an interesting activity in India. Like everybody wants to get you married. Everybody. Wherever you go, it's like, oh, shadi nahi karai. So, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sure. Actually, nowadays, mostly a young generation is going into live-in relationships. So this is basically the theme that we relish too much that we like reading again and again.
Yeah, yeah. I think this thing never just kind of this whole thing. It's almost like it was interesting, but it was also a challenge because it's written about a lot and written about not in a very interesting way. So my challenge was to put it in the most comic way, and the most relatable way, if I could do that. So that was my challenge. Well, I'm glad you liked the book. You liked it, I hope.
Yes, I do like it. And
Thank you.
basically the marriage scenario is too much relatable that you feel like it's just your neighbors or you're just your brother's marriage. So it is so relatable. Thank you for answering.
So, Vani, you just mentioned that you wanted to, write it in such a way that your take on this theme came out humorous. So, I have a question on that. That at any point of time, did you feel or somewhere this doubt, self-doubt came? Because when you're writing, a lot of self-doubt actually start coming in because the book is going to reach many readers who are not even, related to the kind of culture that you come from or the point of view that you are writing from. So, did this self-doubt at some point of time come that what if my humor um, is not being taken in the way that I wanted it to get delivered. Because sometimes when we are talking to someone, the thing that we find humorous is not found humorous by the other person.
Hmm. So I completely understand, Asta, and thank you for asking me that question. So it is not easy to write a romantic comedy. So there are a couple of things that are at a play when you write. Number one, when you write a romantic comedy, number one is that uh, as a my first language is Hindi. So whenever we kind of crack jokes in the family, it's in Hindi. Okay. Now, when you are translating it, it just loses its essence. It just doesn't carry that same kind of the timing is not perfect, the tone is not there. So I had to be very mindful that it's almost like delivered like a punch and then out. The timing of the whole thing has to be absolutely perfect. And trust me, it's not just doubt that I faced. It was like reading those sentences again and again and again. I have gone through these dialogues hundreds and hundreds of times. Before I actually even wrote one sentence, I was deleting, rewriting. So it was insane the amount of thinking, the amount of, and somewhere it was also like okay, it's who is speaking what and at what time. There are definitely sad moments in the book as well. Somebody is losing a job. You can't possibly say something comic at that point of time. So having like the perfect thing, perfect person saying that dialogue, the way that that dialogue is being said, and just the whole thing has to lift up the book. The in a romantic comedy, at any point of time, you can't go like this. You have to have like this and up and like this and up and like this and up. So you have to keep it
Yeah.
going all the time. It was challenging. I had lots of doubts.
Yeah, I would say it was challenging, but you enjoyed it because that's how people are able to enjoy reading the same things in the book.
Yeah. So my first test was, am I enjoying this? If I'm not, then I'm the first person who tests it. If I'm not able to laugh, then nobody else will laugh. Trust me on that. So that's the first
Of
test.
course.
Hmm.
Okay, so we have Siddhant asking one question in the group chat. That is, what was the thought behind setting the book in US and Canada and not the entire story in India?
I think the thought was that primarily, I think the first part, at least, his journey is borrowed from my brother's story. My brother also spent a lot of time in the US. I was very familiar with what he went through when he was there, and I think it was just natural for me. I could have picked up London, I could have picked up any other place as well, but I definitely wanted to write an NRI story. That much I'm sure of. And second, might have, I think US was more familiar because I had traveled there, and I was familiar with my brother's experiences there, and I have been to Canada as well. Europe, I would have had to explore the location, know more about it. You do, of course. I've written about a lot of places which I have never been to. He's traveled to a lot of places. Parashram and Joshi, he's traveled to a lot of places. I've just googled them basically, and but it's like, you still, when I started writing it, I think it was borrowed more from his experiences. That's why I based it in US and Canada, and then I just let my imagination loose. The rest of it is just my imagination. It's just his. The beginning is his, my brother's. I don't give him the entire set of royalty that I owe now.
Okay, so I want to ask another question. The ending. Was the ending meant to be as it is from the very start, from the point you got the idea of the book, or you had some another ending planned, and the one that is there currently in the book changed as you go through the whole writing process?
I think I rewrote the ending multiple times, but this was the one that stuck around, and I thought that it was something which was very. I think it was very the the whole thing was not very easy to write, so I had to get him as a character to a point where this ending would seem very, very natural, and maybe the reader will able to accept this. But in 21st century, again, these are things that we do face, and I have left the book at a place where if I ever want to come up with a part 2 for it, I will be able to
Yeah.
do that as well. So the initial idea was, okay, you know what, just don't make it hunky dory. This is the whole thing. Leave some scope for a novel number 2 if at all you plan to. So that was the whole thought behind it, but with that I'll say without revealing too much in the ending, like what the ending is all about.
Yes. I'm done with my questions. So if any one of the members has more questions, you can either put it in the chat or you can just unmute your mic and ask the question directly.
Vani, your first book was a thriller and your second is a romantic comedy. So one is, oh my God, like, this thriller, and then the second one is so sweet and so, laughing. So how was that journey in transferring from, this very dark and morbid, genre to this? Manali saying, "ये मेरा question था."
I think
This is what happens when I'm in sync with intercontinent people. But yes, I mean, how was that journey? Because I wanted to ask you in the beginning, but I forgot, and then I just remembered, oh, this was a question I had actually planned to ask to you. Because writing a thriller is I am a big thriller junkie. I read thrillers all the time. It's a big, and I have also it's in my Kindle Unlimited wish list, because Siddhant has told me that you have to read this book. by Vani. And so how was that process? I want to know that.
So sweet. He's posted, there's a reel on Instagram in which he included my book, and it's one of his favorites as thriller, And
Yeah.
I have the book right here. It's called Seconds Later. It's also published by Vishwakarma Publications. And well, this was a dark book in a way that this was about a girl, a young girl who wants fame. And what she doesn't know is that there's always a price to pay for fame. And I've written it in first person, POV. And this is like, so the story has many characters who you can get into their head, you know what's going on, and it's very fast paced. I think, between these two stories, I think the challenge was very, very different. Seconds Later is a very, very different book. I think with each of my books, I think it's all about challenging yourself. Okay, I've done that. What next? I think as a person, I get bored very easily. I constantly look for things to challenge myself, to get out of my comfort zone. Okay, what else can I do to excite myself? See, so kind of there's nothing exciting in my life. I work all day. I'm not a party person. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't have a friend circle as well. All I do is work, work, work. So within work, what can I do to make it more exciting? Oh, maybe I can create some really nasty characters. How about that, Vani Kaushal? Or maybe write about such a flawed guy. And still, he has enough going for him that the reader sticks around with him. And how he finds his bride. And so I don't know. It's basically story, story, story at the end of the day. Thriller also has the same kind of a challenge as a romance has. The whole thing is romance, a lot of people are writing. Thriller, why not many people write is because the challenge is altogether different, but writing same rehta hai. It's almost like, you have to keep the plot going. There's a lot of, okay, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? And the pacing is just like, oh my God, there's not a moment to breathe, like what happens, and I have had people telling me that they couldn't sleep until they had finished the novel. Like once they got to page 10, 15, they had a hard time keeping the book away, and it just it's very rewarding for me to hear that. But I wanted to have the same experience, for them to have the same experience with Mr. Joshi's Bride also. So if you've read Mr. Joshi's Bride, you will see that there is a lot of space that is there in the story. That's even I had somebody to interview me, and she said, Vani, at least you could have given a breather in the sex scene. There's some slight scene over there, and they said, तूने उसको भी rush कर दिया. I said, but I have to pace it up. One, I find sex scenes very boring. Even remote sex scenes like kissing scenes and all, I find them very boring. Like, yeah, everybody knows what's gonna happen. Let's go. Yeah. So I don't know whether I answered your question or not, but yeah, I keep the same format all through, whether I'm writing a thriller or a romance.
I agree with the sex scenes being boring, because I understand, like, there is a concept in romance writing which is fade to black. So I love that trope the best, because you have established and now let's move on. Then there is, of course, there are books that have like descriptive writing, but yeah, everybody reads that. There are a lot of readers for that as well. But I love fade to black because we know what will happen. So we, like, as readers, as somebody who reads very through characters, actually living through characters, as a reader, I live through my characters. My life is also very boring. I was actually discussing with Asta that other day. Somebody was traveling and we met somebody, one day, and the next day, the next day after, they are in Goa. We're like, what is happening with our lives? Are nothing. We go nowhere. We just go from work, go to home and come back, reading, doing some other. And people are traveling in one day's notice. Of like, people are really living, and we have such non-happening lives. We can proudly say we have no Instagram influence on us. That was just something we just laughed out loud. Yeah.
It's so boring. That's why you see, writers, most writers who have written the most exciting books, if you actually look at their life, it's so boring. I get up at the same time every day. I eat the same breakfast and the same dinner, day on and day on, and every single day. My dinner is cereal. That's it. For last 10 years, I've been eating cereals for dinner. My morning breakfast is eggs. How much excitement do I bring into my life, you know? So where do I take all the, जैसे वो होता नहीं है कि अपने दिल का कहाँ निकाले वो किताबों में निकाल दो. So yeah, I mean, I know you understand, but I don't travel as well. Where do I go? This was the last time I came to meet you in Delhi. Uske baad, I have not traveled. Why do we travel? And people are like going at an hour's notice, and I'm like, seriously, you do that? I'm like, it will take me at least 2 months to even make that plan in my head. I know what you mean. Somebody asked me a question here, but it was something about the ending. If I had another ending
Yeah.
in planned or something, right? Asta?
Yes, yes. Bhavna asked, yes.
Yes. I would say that probably like when it was at the manuscript stage, I I was playing around in my mind with another ending, but I think this one was what wanted to be written. You know that, right? I mean, it's hard for me to explain. You don't write a book. A book writes itself through you. You're just somebody who is just putting it down on paper. So I think this was the ending that most wanted to happen, you know. So I hope you like the ending. We're not giving out the ending, but I hope, you know, it kind of made you like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone has more questions, I think you can directly ask. Yeah, Manali.
Hey, hi. So Kenna has already asked my question in part, but I'm glad she didn't complete the full question I had in mind. My actual question was a little technical and author related. I wanted to understand the different elements that you used in the two types of genres that you have written so far. Because I'm currently working on a thriller and I don't know how to go about it because I have only written romance so far. So I want to understand what is the difference as a writer that you do between the two genres.
Okay, so romance is of course a lot more mushy, a lot more emotional, and thriller is much more raw. It involves that raw. You know, you don't have too much time for emotion and emotional stuff to play out. So when I was writing, though there are bits and pieces of it, but you don't have too much time to dwell on it. Then the overall tension in that cannot be relaxed at all. In a thriller, you start you start building the tension, then it peaks, and then it ends in the last 3 pages or the last 4 pages in the story where you resolve all the tension. In a romance, you kind of build the tension, you ease. You build the tension, you ease. You kind of have those mushy moments and you know you bring them together and ease. So there is a lot of difference in the writing of the two parts. With a thriller, if you ease the tension, the thriller is going to drop. Trust me on that. So I think, and for to create that, the technique is you have to constantly ask yourself, where is it going now? Where is it going now? The plot has to be so solid that from page 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 100 to 200 to 250, there has to be something happening on the paper. The people can't just be having beer and discussing about life. There is no point of having endless discussions about life and this and that. So there has to be action, action, action. So when I was writing seconds later, I was almost like the challenge was that even if the girl is dreaming, if there is a dream that she's dreaming, in that dream also she is kind of accomplishing some challenge or something that is going on. It's a prophetic dream. She's going to see that happen in her life or something of that sort, and it plays out in front of her. So I have to just kind of have multiple tropes up my sleeve multiple elements to play out, and the field is like open. Kuch marzi karo, but just don't let up the steam. वो कुकर ना चढ़ा दो गैस पे और भूल जाओ और उसका steam build होने दो. Don't let up the steam in any case.
Yeah, that brings me to a follow-up question. Since you mentioned the dream sequence, I also drew a similarity between the two books, though the genres are different. We also have a dream sequence in this book, and we had a dream sequence in the first book. So another add-on question to that is, how do you, differentiate between the broader genre when you are doing such a scene?
Well, the thing is that number one, why the whole thing is that, what are you? These are again, these are elements that, or you can say these are props that you use to kind of you use them in the story to drive the story forward. What is my dream doing in the first book? In seconds later, the dream is actually telling her about an intrusion in the somebody is going to come break into the house, and she's guided in the dream how to fight back. In this story there is something that again, something he sees what's going to happen. Parasuraman is very aware of what's going to happen, and he's guided in the dream that this is what's going to happen, and you will know when it happens, and you will be okay, or something of that sort. So I think broader genre, I think you have to, these are just props. I look at them as props. What can I use as props? I can use dreams as props. I can use a psychic, because I'm like, I use a bit of my training also goes there. So I am a psychic. I analyze faces. That's my day job. I'm an energy healer. I understand energies of people. I I do past life regression. So somebody reaches their past life, they have a past life recall, and God knows what all goes on. So I bring in all those elements, and I'm like, okay, how do I mix it together to drive the story forward? So any genre that you're writing, you will need different elements to make the story spicy. Now, what is your favorite ingredient? You just choose according to that, and you just mix it well, and it just comes out as a nice blend.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Vani, for answering that.
Yeah, wonderful.
I think this session has also been, I would say, a mix of all kind of elements that we all like. That is talking about books, getting the opportunity to talk to author, propose our questions, able to get some deep diving into the book, the conversation. So it was all fun for me. If we do not have any more questions, I think we can wrap up the session. Guys, do you have any more questions? You can just raise your hand even if you're typing so that we would know. No, it doesn't look like that anyone has more questions. So I hope your discussion thirst has been satisfied. So thank you, Vani, for joining us, for giving us the opportunity to actually read your book and discuss it with you. And to everyone who joined in today, decided to spend their Saturday afternoon with us discussing Vani's book. So thank you, everyone, from my side.
Thank you so much, Astha. Thank you, Sakena. Thank you, Manali. And I deeply heartfelt gratitude to all the members of your book club who have left me such honest and such beautiful reviews. And I honestly, I thank you all for reading, for reviewing, and for appreciating Mr. Joshi's journey. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that the book resonated with you. I have enjoyed this time with you, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Vani. We look forward to reading more of your work.
Looking forward to more of your work, definitely.
Thank you, Kenna. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Shall we leave?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, yes.